Hi, everybody. My name is Taha, and you're very welcome to my channel. My channel, as you know by now, is titled The Magic of Software. So, that in itself probably tells you something um, about the kind of content that I intend to make available on this channel. And no, if you were wondering, I did not mean sharing uh, tricks of magic, but it comes pretty close. So let me introduce myself somewhat. I am a software engineer by profession, and I've had around, or rather exactly, 20 years of experience in the software industry, which includes some years in the United States, working for Microsoft. And I've also worked with many other big names in the industry for a lot of time. And these days, I spend time in doing consultancy gigs on and off. So now let's come to this channel. Why have I created this? Basically, I have created this to make available the kind of content that I wish I had for myself a couple of years ago. And what would that be? Well, instead of me defining it in terms of, precision, let's rather think about the kind of topics and issues, discussions, insights that we'd like to delve into. So, have you ever wondered what exactly is software? What is it really? I mean, you may be using some software that you are aware of, as in consciously. For example, it could be something running on your laptop, on any operating system like Windows or Linux or Mac or whatever. It could be software running on your mobile phone, iOS or Android, anything. That software could be apps on the mobile phone. These are the kind of software that you are aware of. But then again, there is software at many places that you might not even know. For example, the modern car, even the relatively less modern ones than Tesla, let's say, even they are holding within themselves a lot of embedded software. And you'd expect software to be in odd places like in the DVD players, in the set-top boxes, in microwaves, in refrigerators. It's everywhere. As the phrase goes, that software is eating the world. And actually it is. So if you have ever wondered what exactly is the nature of software, if you have ever wondered how to utilize software to achieve your objectives, if you have ever wondered what are the steps that go into the development of software in general, or specifically well-written software, if you have ever wondered how is it that, let's say, you are opening a calculator program in on your laptop, on your mobile, or on a browser. How does it work exactly? What exactly happens when you write 2 multiplied by 33 and it gives you the answer 66? What is going on really? How does the computer even know the concept of a number? How does it even know the concept of multiplication? These are all legitimate questions and very fascinating ones too. If these kinds of questions interest you, then, my friend, this is the right channel for you. You would love the content that you would find here. So, you do yourself a favor and subscribe to the channel. However, that is not the only thing that will show up as content over here. We'd be covering a fair bit of topics, and it would be my constant endeavor to make things very easy to understand while at the same time providing you deep insight into the fundamental nature of software of any kind. That is one spectrum of the kind of content that you'll see over here on this channel. That spectrum would also include discussion on computer science. What is computer science? Well, computer science is actually the formal study of what makes a computer a computer, and also what are the capabilities and limitations of a computer. How can you write effective software on actual computers? That is one end of the spectrum. And it's very important because that fundamental insight, once you get it, it reflects into everything you do. If you build software of any kind, using any language, using any framework, using any device, whether it, any kind of software that you want to build or test or run or think about, that deep insight into the fundamental nature of software will always come in handy. Think of it like this: it is sort of a superpower that you will get. Believe me when I say that, because I have had a lot of experience in pretty much all phases of software development lifecycle, handling fairly complex projects, delivering on them. And owing to my inquisitive nature, I have had um, a lot of time at my disposal thinking about these topics in depth, experimenting with them, pondering over them, tinkering with them, and in a way that a computer science professor typically, there are always exceptions, a computer science professor cannot really um push the message through to an average Joe. Uh, I can do that. And that is precisely my intention to do. Okay, so because the theory of computer science, which is basically theory of computation, theory of automata, and stuff like that, computation theory, all of that has a bearing on the fundamental nature of software. That is one extreme. In addition to that, we would also cover topics of, um, let's say, more practical nature that basically means that now, rather than focusing on the philosophical aspect, on the insight into the nature, the fundamental nature of software, we'd like to move on to the craftsmanship, to the actual nuts and bolts level, to actual building of software. What does that mean? That means choosing a programming language, getting familiar with its syntax, its semantics, its associated tools, best practices, and then moving onwards to actually delivering and building software that achieves some objective, that meets its requirements, and we'd cover quite a bit of stuff there as well. That would include uh, maybe tutorials on languages, hands-on workshops with detailed, in-depth, insightful advice, best practices, lessons that help you gain a very firm foundation when you actually get to develop software. So even if you are, with that in mind, even if you are a software professional, I believe you'd still learn a lot. You'd still gain something from it, unless you're a very experienced software developer and come with a strong computer science formal academic background. That's a special case, but even that guy would, I think, enjoy watching what I intend to put up on this channel. So let's move forward further. So what other kind of content can you expect here? The other kind of content that you would see here deals with the software engineering aspects. So, moving from the philosophical, from the abstract to the actual um, relatively concreteness. What does it really take to engineer good software? Well, is software engineering even an engineering at all? Uh, People have very strongly held opinions on this, but more often than not, people agree that, yeah, software engineering is entitled to being called engineering after all. You know, Computer science is a different beast. It's basically mathematics, very useful for the fundamental insight, which is not just hanging in the air. It has actual practical implications on how you write software, how effective you become. Having said that, there are also dimensions that come into play when you actually engineer good software meeting the requirements. There are, of course, best practices associated with that too. And those are exactly what we'll share here. That includes, for example, getting familiar with the software development lifecycle, understanding it well enough, each of its phases well enough, how they interact with each other, how they interface with each other. What does each of those phases really take to be done well? And finally, this channel would also include content of hands-on workshops in coding, debugging, deployment, so on and so forth. But I intend to do them pretty much in this sequence actually. I'd first want to talk about the fundamental nature of software. And believe me, it would be very insightful. I think you'll love it. Finally, if it's not obvious by now, my excitement about the topic of software, if it has not rubbed off to you watching me so far, then I'd like to, explain it to you that I have always wanted to become a computer scientist slash software engineer. I have always been interested in the fundamental nature of software and how to build effective software to solve real world problems with a deep insight. And I believe I can do that very well. One other dimension, finally, that we'd also take into account is the business analysis side of things. Whenever you're building software, you're engineering software, you have to heed to requirements of somebody. Somebody is telling you, these are the requirements, blah blah blah. Do this, do this, do this. I expect your software to do this. That part of the software development life cycle, to analyze the business requirements, to translate them effectively into requirements in a format detailedly specified in order for software developers to make working software from it, in order for software testers to build effective testing strategies, test plans, actual tests, whether automated or manual, so on and so forth. All of that will also be part of the kind of content that you can expect to see on this channel. And finally, I want to end this introductory video with a thought. What really is the relationship between electronics and software? Just think about it for a while. Can you really figure it out? Let's say you have a laptop. If we all know that it needs power, right? You either get the power from a power outlet in the wall, or if your battery is charged, then that power is acquired from the battery. Regardless, it is electrical power that powers up the electronics inside the laptop. And I guess all of you know that in a typical computer, a laptop or a desktop, you have different units. You have the processor, you have the RAM, you have hard disks, you have peripherals, you have you know components like this, which constitute a modern computer. And all of those, more often than not, are electronic computers. So think about this for a moment. You have switched on your laptop, powered it up. Let's say you have Windows installed on it, or Linux, or whatever operating system. It boots up. That, by the way, the operating system is also nothing else but a piece of software, just of a different kind. So, it boots up, you log in, and bingo, there you go. You double click on a browser, you enter Google, you go watch CNN, you watch sports, you do whatever, uh, and it just works. But what is it that is really happening? It's all electronics, right? And it's all peripherals. Where is the software really present? How does it work? So, you have an executable file present on some hard disk, you double click it and it just runs whatever it is supposed to do. If it's a calculator will open up. If it's a word processor, a word processor will open up. If it's a game will open up and it will do exactly as you want it to do, basically. If there are no bugs, of course. But just think about this for a moment. Just think deeply. When all is said and done, the software program, that exe file that you have, what is it but just a bunch of ones and zeros stored somewhere on the hard drive? And hard drive is just a piece of electronics. And if it's an old hard drive, electromechanical components, it's all ones and zeros, right? So you double click those ones and zeros, and it brings pictures on your screen. You press, you see menus, you press this button, you press that widget, you enter text over here, you press enter, this and that, and stuff happens. Screens change, um, stuff happens, software works. But what is it that is really going on in the processor? It's all electronics, right? Processor has its own instructions. And they are also, when all is said and done in digital computers, are a bunch of ones and zeros. The state of each individual bit is either one or zero. It is all happening very, very fast. That is a key point. That is why we use electronic computers, electronic digital computers. So let the thought sink in. And let's say you go to the browser, you press www.cnn.com. Bingo, the CNN webpage pops up. But what is it that is really happening behind the hood? Your software, the browser is a piece of application software, whether it's Chrome or IE or Firefox or Safari or whatever. It's a piece of application software. And that piece, what is it doing really? CNN's website is hosted somewhere else on some other computer on a data center, but it's a computer nevertheless. What really happens? All of those ones and zeros, they eventually make their way from the network, whether it happens to be Ethernet or Wi Fi, they happen to make their way again as ones and zeros all the way to some destination server, which is again nothing else but just a computer, which can service this request. It can give you some content that you want. Well, again, it's a computer, same stuff happens. It fetches some resource, it puts it up, it sends it to you back again when all is said and done in nothing else but a sequence of ones and zeros that's traveling all the way from one computer to the other over some telecommunication infrastructure, some data communication infrastructure, routers, switches, network interface cards, so on and so forth, till it reaches you back. And your browser shows it to you in a way that it is supposed to show you, whether it's a web page, a video, whatever. Let the thought sink in again. What's going on? When all is said and done, all kinds of information, including that exe file, it's just a bunch of ones and zeros. All instructions that go into your processor, it's just a bunch of ones and zeros. All instructions that go to telling your computer monitor, your screen, show this and show that, it's again the same. That picture, that current frame that your software wants to display on your screen is a sequence of ones and zeros when it's all done and said. It's happening very fast, but essentially that is all there is to it. And yet, and yet it works. And yet you can communicate, do computations, send and receive information seamlessly. That's why I say it's almost it seems like magic. And just let another thought sink in. When you say you have an executable program, you double click it and it just works. How does it really work when all that's really happening is an exchange of ones and zeros? Right? So it's magic. Well, not exactly magic, but I'd like to quote Arthur C. Clarke. He said that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So is software. It's pretty advanced. It requires a lot of stuff to work together. And yet, let me leave you with another thought. What exactly is the fundamental nature of information? And As you'll see once we dive into it, it's highly mathematical in nature. To truly understand the concept of information or even computation, which is what software is all about, you have to understand mathematics. And that is all very, very fascinating how it works. And I'd like you to join me if this kind of questions, their answers, this world, if this fascinates you, if you want to know more about it with deep insight, deep, deep insight, covering a lot of different domains, right from computer science to mathematics to compilers to software development lifecycle to good coding practices to cloud and everything in between to even telecommunications. Because you must have heard by now that the world of telecommunications is quickly merging with the world of software. Let's see, why do we say so? Let's see, you have an instant messenger, WhatsApp, let's say, or anything else. Let's say whatever you want, WeChat, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, whatever. You can use all of these to perform very, very cheap and very reasonable quality multimedia telecommunication. You can have a video call, a voice call, as long as you're connected to an internet and have that program with you. So just think what is happening. What's happening is that traditionally what used to be done with a telecommunications service operator, let's say companies like AT&T, Verizon, um, T-Wireless, etc., you were pretty much dependent on those to give you the ability to make a phone call, right? But that's not the case anymore. You have a laptop, you have a mobile phone connected to internet, you can call your buddy across the, other block, other room, or other side of the world on another continent, wherever, as long as internet is reachable there and is of reasonable quality. So you see, the world of software has already eaten up into the world of telecom. That line is blurring further. And it is indeed software that is eating into the telecom world like it is eating into all kinds of worlds. For example, uh, car is, like these days it's like computer on wheels. So if all these kinds of questions they fascinate you, you want to know more about them and with deep insight, then this channel is absolutely the right one for you. Subscribe it and stay hooked for a lot of exciting, insightful, deep, actionable content. I am very excited because this is what I love, and I hope to rub off that insight, that excitement um, to you, to all of you. So, a very warm welcome. And by the way, you'll also find my LinkedIn profile in the text associated with this video. You could follow me there on LinkedIn, and I look forward to having this great content available here, which would benefit all of you. And I would be very responsive to your queries. If you have questions, I'd love to address them. You can also, through the question answer, through comments, request um, some topics that you want to be addressed, and I'd be very uh, responsive to it. So, guys, look forward to having a great journey of exploring the magical world of software really together. So, I really look forward. Go ahead, subscribe this channel, and become the magicians of software. Have a good day.